Hey everybody, and welcome to a somewhat comprehensive tutorial of monster gameplay in Evolve. I'm Captain Scourge, an ESL tournament-winning Goliath main with tons of hands-on monster experience. Now these are going to be tips and tricks that apply to every monster, so if you're looking for something more advanced or specific, stay tuned because I'm working on those as well. But for now, this tutorial is going to start with the absolute basics and end with some simple strategies you can use to try and win some of your games as monster. Let's get started. Your objective: run, evolve, kill. As the monster, you start the game at your absolute weakest, stage 1. First thing you need to do is run. Go find some wildlife, kill it, and eat it to fill your evolution meter, allowing you to stage up. Staging up gives you more maximum health, more maximum armor, and additional evolution points that you can put into your abilities. Once you're stage 3, a new objective, the power relay, comes online. Run up to it and hold attack to destroy it. If you do that or kill all of the hunters, you win. The dome is what players call the mobile arena, the big blue capsule that forces you to stay in place. The dome lasts, by default, 5 minutes. This time is reduced by 3.5 minutes whenever a hunter is down, and reduced by a minute when the monster loses a certain percentage of their maximum health depending on their stage. At stage 1, this is 4% health, meaning a monster can never lose more than 20% of their maximum health at stage 1 without the dome collapsing. Once the dome drops, it can be used again for 80 seconds. When a hunter goes down, they incur a strike. This is what that gray square on a hunter's health bar indicates. It means they've permanently lost 20% of their maximum health. Hunters can have up to 2 strikes. If they go down while at 2 strikes, they instead die immediately. What this means is that while you can get stronger as the game goes on, hunters can only get weaker as they lose up to 40% of their max health. It can be a good strategy to keep focusing the same hunter, since the lost max health makes it easier to down the hunter a second and third time. The dropship is how hunters re-enter the fight. It starts out taking 15 seconds for reinforcements to arrive, that timer starting when a hunter is downed rather than killed. This time gets longer and longer. Keep an eye on the icon at the top left, since it'll tell you how long it'll take for hunters to come back at any given time. The timer. Games of Evolve last 15 minutes. At 5 minutes, this timer pauses anytime the players are in combat with one another or the monster hits the power relay. If this timer hits 0, the monster loses. Given the duration of domes and how their timer decreases once damage is taken or dealt, it is in the monster's interest to fight during domes. Finally, the power relay. The extra objective enabled once you hit stage 3. If you destroy it, you win the game. What this means in practice is that hunters will almost always set up around it at the end of a game, defending it. If they don't, you can pull them out of their preferred position by just hitting it and threatening to end the game. This also means that at stage 3, you have plenty of time to wander around and find buffs, armor up, etc. Without the hunters pressuring you, the only threat is the clock, and sometimes it makes the most sense to approach slowly and guarantee a good fight. Perks are a major part of the game, but they also vary a lot by player and by monster. Learning some basics and figuring out what you enjoy and where you struggle might go a long way in helping you decide which perks are right for you. Brawler. Brawler is a fantastic minor perk for most monsters since it gives you a little bit of everything. Hunger. Hunger gives you feed speed and movement speed. Minor and major hunger are great perks since they let you stage up more easily. This is particularly nice for new players since they extend the game and give you more time to play and learn at each stage. They're also a great counter to Laz since if you eat a corpse, he can't resurrect it. Claws and Grounder. These perks are great for guaranteeing downs either through sheer damage or by making combos easier to land. A hunter that can't dodge is going to drop much more quickly than one who can. Finally, we have Defense. Defense perks are great since, like Hunger, they allow you to just play the game a little bit longer and get more experience. The difference is Defense lets you fight longer and get more experience that way. If you take Brawler and both Defense perks, you're sitting at 30% damage reduction, which is absolutely ridiculous. They also particularly suit my playstyle since I focus heavily on exploiting hunter mistakes and bad positioning, so giving the hunters more time to make those mistakes benefits me. Something absolutely essential to monster gameplay is traversals. Every monster has a unique traversal, the movement ability bound to spacebar. This is how monsters achieve their burst of speed. During and just after combat, monsters' traversal recharge speeds are greatly increased, meaning just after a fight, you're a lot faster than the hunters. Get as much distance as you can before slowing down and beginning to eat or preparing for the next fight. Plan your route. On every map for each monster, it helps to know where you want to go first. If your main objective right now is to run, where are you running to? There are 2 important considerations here. 1, where are the wildlife? What route can I take to fill my evolution meter as fast as possible? 2, and this one is really important, where do you want your first fight? In Evolve Stage 2, getting domed early is incredibly likely. As the monster, you can manipulate where that happens. What's important isn't necessarily the fight. You're stage 1 and unlikely to do much damage, but running away from the hunters is very important. This is where you have to consider your monster. If you're Goliath, you move downhill very quickly, so you should feed by going uphill and then sprint downhill after the first fight. As Kraken, you ignore terrain, so feeding by going downhill and then fleeing uphill to slow the hunters makes more sense. Kill and move. Every monster has abilities or traits that allow them to kill wildlife without needing to slow down. Here's a quick list sorted by monster. These abilities don't slow your movement while being cast, so you can use them from a distance, kill some wildlife, and be ready to eat them as soon as you're close. It's little time saves like this that'll keep you ahead of the hunters. A note here, normal behemoth doesn't have an ability like this, but he can roll into wildlife to kill them. If you're really careful, you can hit them as you're unfurling, meaning you never even have to slow down. Heavy attacks happen automatically while pressing the attack button. On PC, the default is left click. You'll see a unique animation that has some visual effects. Unlike basic attacks, you'll deal additional damage, and you'll push damaged hunters, leaving them briefly stunned. Heavy attacks have a short, invisible cooldown, typically 3 seconds. Heavy attacks are a great opportunity to follow up with aimed abilities like Leap Smash, Fissure, or Warp Blast since the target is briefly stunned. It'll be harder for them to dodge. There are 2 main uses for sneak attacks, also known as pounces, one in and one out of combat. Out of combat, if you find a hunter alone, this just allows you to pin hunters down and beat them mercilessly. While a hunter is pinned, they can't fight back, although they can use their class abilities. This is essentially a lot of unavoidable damage, since another hunter needs to damage you to end the sneak attack. A quick tip here is that when you're expecting other hunters to show up and cancel your pounce, you can cancel it yourself by pressing the crouch button. Then, with the hunter directly at your feet, you can get some free damage with something like a Banshee missile, Fissure, or Charge. In combat, and a bit more advanced, you can use pounces mid-fight to catch a hunter and pull them to you, making it easier to land a lot of abilities. This can be hard to do since you have to crouch briefly before being able to pounce, but if you can pull it off, it's a great way to waste hunter jetpack and guarantee combos. At higher levels, a monster's game plan is usually to deal reliable damage until a hunter makes a mistake, and then to punish them for it as severely as possible. This can be something as innocuous as standing a bit too close to a corner or a cliff and getting shoved into it, or as severe as a medic approaching you entirely alone and getting pounced for it. If you find a hunter alone with your sniff, often it makes sense to engage them as aggressively as possible, even at stage 1. Most characters can't stand up to a monster alone for very long, and if you manage to down them, the hunters won't be able to dome for 15 seconds. If the other hunters do show up in time and foil the plan, you can begin to flee, forcing a dome. Really, you haven't lost much. Crucially, you shouldn't use this against assaults since they can activate their personal shields while pounced and you won't be able to down them. Bad positioning is a big one. Every monster has ways of pushing hunters around. Charge, vortex, abduct, etc. If you can force a hunter over a cliff, into a corner, or away from their allies, you can deal a lot of damage quickly. Even if this doesn't immediately get you the down, often it only takes another 10 or 20 seconds to capitalize on the advantage you've gained. Finally, failed dodges and blocks are things you need to capitalize on. I'm going to play a few clips in the background here. These look like normal gameplay, but really what they are is mistakes. Some monster abilities are just dodge or die buttons. Goliath's Rock Throw and Kraken's Lightning Strike are 2 good examples of this, doing over a third of a hunter's health with just 1 point invested. Hunters ought to be dodging or blocking for one another when they can, and if they don't, it can be the first major chip in a hunter team's defenses. When landing heavy damage like this, it often makes sense to double down on the pressure, even for some health loss. Alright, well that's it. This has been a brief tutorial on some generic monster mechanics, how the game works, what you're trying to do, etc. If you want to see any specific content or monster tutorials, let me know, and I'll probably have some of those out soon. Thanks, and happy hunting.